And we're live. There we are. Hey, what's up, guys? It's your digital toilet paper podcast team. My name's Jason Bear.
I'm Rex Rebo.
At Armed and Hilarious.
And today we are talking about shared universes on this podcast. And speaking of shared universes, we have two shared universe guests with us from the TaleGate podcast. We've got Harrison the Florida Man and Aaron the Cheesehead. Go check out the TaleGate podcast on Instagram at the TaleGate podcast and search for them wherever you guys find your normal podcasts. Check them out. It'll be really, really cool. What's up, guys? How you doing?
Doing pretty good. But before we get down to business, what are we drinking today, Cheesehead?
Yeah, well, my brewski today is a good old Sam Adams Oktoberfest, and I know it's November now, but, got to get me some of that caramelly goodness before it goes out of style.
Well, it's a good thing in Germany they celebrate Oktoberfest in September, so we're all good here.
It's a year-round celebration for those of us up in the north.
I got me a old, let's see, scoop. Oh, shit, I don't even know what it's called. It is a Higher Plane IPA by New Belgium. And I got my new cool koozie that came with my sound machine vinyl.
Action.
Nice.
I like it.
Very nice.
I'm
happy. I'm feeling glad.
Step away.
I
We
got
appreciate
sunshine
you,
in a can.
We appreciate you, TaleGate guys, and your beer. But hold on 1 second.
Yeah. Well, we're going. I've got some Stag Junior here. I was lucky enough to get some of that, and I figure why not? A little crossover action. Why not celebrate?
Yeah.
I love that Florida man is wearing a Captain America. It's just like an embodiment of Florida.
America.
Hold on. I got that.
America.
The
I got this
toilet
bad
paper
boy
team.
for special occasions, but not this weekend because we lost pretty bad. So I'm gonna put that over there.
DTP team's gonna go Scotch today.
Nice.
If
Nice.
it's going to be any time,
Classy gentlemen up in this joint.
Oh, well, cheers.
Nice.
Prost. Salud.
Hey,
Yeah.
I'm not taking this to the bed.
So we're talking about shared.
Share universes today. Yeah. So
God damn, we're talking about shared universes.
we'll see if we can keep talking about shared universes by the end of this podcast.
Sharing my vomit. I keep drinking like.
All right, guys. So, couple things. One, before we jump completely into this, let's talk about what a shared universe is, right? So, we're talking about a shared universe, but how does that differ from like a sequel or a spin-off, or even like a soft or hard reboot, right?
Or also, like, I would say, like an homage. You watch movies like, I think is Chucky, where they open up what's it called? The lockers that the policemen have.
Oh, yeah. Lockers.
What are those called?
They're called lockers.
Yeah, no, they're called lockers. The evidence locker. And you see like Michael Myers mask, and you see all these homages, but I don't think that was like a true crossover. I think that was them like.
Yeah, those are Easter eggs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would say let's differentiate maybe what's Easter egg, what's not, what's say film universe versus what is like comic book universe. So I know like Freddy and Jason have met in the films, but Ash and Freddy and Jason have met in the comics, but I don't think that carries on to the films. I know it gets convoluted.
Yeah, and I think it's important to understand like that spin-offs by definition are shared universe, right? Whether it be comic book, whether it be television. So, we like to talk about when these things come together. If they have having a common origin creates an inherent shared universe, right?
Yeah.
Cheers and Frasier, Buffy and Angel, those kinds of things.
You had X-Files and Lone Gunman.
Lone Gunman, yeah. So all those things started from the same NCIS. Its spin-offs all came eventually or essentially from JAG, right? Those are
I think Doctor Who, Torchwood.
Yeah. Well, Doctor Who's another one, right? Because Doctor Who's like Star Trek, right? Single timeline, shared universe, just different points in time. Right? Is that accurate to say?
Well, if you're talking about DC as well, they have a shared universe film that is now connected to the shared universe shows.
Right.
Everybody gets a shared universe.
DC just kind of rebooted reorganized things too, so that's a whole other conversation.
Like Exhibit, like Like, dog, I saw your shared universe, so I shared my universe with your shared universe.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too. Like, there are shared universes by virtue of the fact that they just exist in the same source, but they're not shared universes for that medium, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's a DC animated shared universe, but then there's a whole bunch of other standalone DC animated films that, even though they all have a shared origin, don't have a shared universe. So let's talk about what a shared universe is not, and then we can get started on topic, right? Go ahead.
I would love to can I get some clarification from you guys? Because now that I've got this council of experts, what do you guys think about the Pixar shared universe? Does that kind of fall into this? Yeah. Where it's Brave is set in the 14th century and Monsters Inc. / Monsters U is in like year 5,000. Have you guys seen this and all that? Does that count?
No, I
universe?
I think some of that though is like fan theory and not like official Pixar.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very thinly veiled at best, but I just wanted to see if that kind of falls under this umbrella.
I would consider that more Easter egg territory, just because I don't think the creators said like, hey, that's definitely canon, that like Wall-E is the future of, not quite the future of Monsters Inc., but before, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they did say that. To my knowledge,
No, I don't know.
I would say the
did.
creators would have to be in cahoots for that.
I don't think Pete Docter and Dan Scanlon had like a Joss Whedon and Russo brothers type meeting where it's like, how are we going to roll out the next 10
Right,
Pixar movies?
But that doesn't exclude them from being a shared universe, right? Planet of the Apes, all full circle shared universe because of the end of the new version leading to the beginning of the old ones, right?
Yeah.
They didn't plan that, but that doesn't
that's
exclude it.
well, like I think Predator 2, and this is going to get so convoluted. So if you're watching, like Predator 2 ends when he goes in the spaceship. There's an alien skull, right? And so I feel like that was an Easter egg.
Right, that's an Easter egg.
That became a crossover in the comic books, and then became a crossover in films where they did an Alien versus Predator film,
But
right?
correct me if I'm wrong, and I might be wrong. I'm probably wrong. I'm just going to say I'm wrong.
There's a first time for everything.
No, so for that Easter egg though, I think that Predator would still have to get permission to use the property, like the Geiger skull. The H.R. Geiger, because like I don't think that.
Are you talking legally, or are you talking socially?
That's interesting. Greg and I were just talking about this.
Department?
Because H.R. Geiger is who like
Geiger
Geiger
wasn't. Geiger gets only thank you credit on Aliens 2.
Oh, that's rough.
He wasn't part of the production team or any of that, so he wasn't consulted in that. I feel like you take a drink. This is gonna be crazy. So I'm glad that we all have booze in us. Like, this is gonna be nuts because it's. I think it was an Easter egg that rolled into a crossover, like because even the Prometheus bringing in the Wyland Corporation, with aliens and everything tied into that, and then even moreover going into Blade Runner 2. Like there's so much that goes into that. And I was going to say,
is it sometimes you can take inspiration and go the other way, right? Like, did you know that by popular acceptance, the Daredevil Marvel Comics universe is a shared universe with the TMNT universe?
Yeah, that is so cool.
The chemicals that blinded Daredevil is from the same corporation that created the ooze that created the TMNT.
Because
that makes a bigger extended universe, though.
Right, because now we have Usagi Yojimbo.
Usagi Yojimbo, yeah.
Well, and Batman is having a current run with the Ninja Turtles right now, and they even did a feature film, an animated film with that. So that's Marvel and IDW and DC all together.
Well, and then I think Stan Sakai created Usagi Yojimbo, but like they so in the comic books though, they go back to the comic books coming together, and then in the TV show they came together. In one of the reboots, I guess they didn't officially use Usagi Yojimbo, but they just had a rabbit that kind of resembled him. It's kind of a workaround, like fuck off, like just get the permission to do it. But, and I met him. Stan Sakai was at MegaCon in Orlando, I think, maybe 15 years ago, and I met him. Guys, he would do like free. If you had like you had him sign a comic book, he would do like a drawing for you.
That is awesome.
Wow, that's cool.
I love his art too. He's so good. Those stories are so.
His art kind of reminds me of what today is the One Punch Man, where like the faces are so simple until they get like in a serious moment, then suddenly Usagi has a very expressive eyes.
Right. Well, that's an anime manga trope anyway, right? Simple designs until you need it to be complicated.
and not to deviate too far, but anyone reading it just came out, but there's the Last Ronin. So
Yes.
So you're familiar. So the Last Ronin is the newest Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles timeline. It's very much like Old Man Logan, where there's one turtle, you don't know who he is at first. There's one turtle who's left, and the spirit of his three brothers are there. I don't think it's canon because Jenica's not there.
Right, but Ninja Turtles canon's so convoluted anyway. So who knows?
Yeah, but I think Jenica is like hard canon now. There's like a fifth turtle. Yeah.
Okay.
She was like, I think like kind of an anti-hero type ninja girl.
Yeah.
And she has like the Vega claws, and then she had a blood transfusion to save her life from one of the turtles, and then she became a Ninja Turtle, and she's part of the team as far as I know. She's like the yellow. She's really cool. I liked. I'm a fan of Jenica, but
Much better than when they introduced the girl in the short-lived television version.
like the baby blue. She had like kind of turtle boobs. That was so bad.
With the
so
chest
bad.
plate.
All right, so let's track this back just a bit, just to keep topicking. So shared universes, what counts? Spin-offs count. Sequels obviously count. Different time periods in the same timeline counts, but deviating timelines count in the same universe. Multiverse theory. Now do multiverse things
I would say multiverse counts if in the storyline the multiverse is a thing.
crosses over? Okay.
Yeah. Like if there's a storyline involved in multiverse and the two know each other, then I would count that. But if it's
So
like
mirror universe Star Trek counts as a shared universe with every other Star Trek.
Well, so on that note, there's R2D2 makes a brief cameo in Star Trek. Do we count that? Just as
Easter
everything
egg. I think that's an Easter egg.
That's an Easter egg.
I would kind of
like E.T. in
And the
Star Wars.
Falcon, the Millennium Falcon also appears, I mean, again, this is a comic, so take it as you will, but appears in the Guardians of the Galaxy comic.
Yeah. I have that one.
But it also appears in Lego Batman.
That is very true.
To be fair though,
Lego, because Lego is just like this.
Yeah, those are actual
overarching-
Lego
Lego
sets.
takes every single thing and just is like, it's
So everything's
all
a
the same.
shared universe via Lego.
but
Right.
their shared universe is an actual kid playing with real Lego. That's like that. I don't know. I don't know. That was honestly one of my favorite Batman movies, though.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
But
was great.
speaking to different, multiverse things, the current DCTVU, the Arrowverse, right, has all of those things: multiverse, split timelines, alternate reality versions, different time stream versions, time remnants, time bandits. Yeah.
Great movie. Terry Gilliam.
But it's got all of those things. So, but you know what? Everybody is kind of familiar with the current shared universe understanding of like the Marvel Comics universe, the Dookie Crap universe, the DC shared universe.
I can. All right. So one thing when people, I know people are going to compare MCU to DCEU. That's the easiest thing to do.
No, because one of them is good.
Well, here's the thing.
There is no comparison.
No, here's the thing. I think DCEU has some good films. I thought the first Man of Steel was okay. I actually liked that they dealt with like a superhero who has to actually kill somebody. Like I think that moral dilemma is something we don't see enough of. I wish that had carried on to the other films. They act like that never happened. But I thought Man of Steel, that one moment was really powerful. I thought Wonder Woman was good. I love Shazam. I actually loved Shazam.
Well, yeah,
because it was about family and
more to that. Shazam is the high water mark of that franchise so far because it doesn't try to be something it's not.
It was kind of like Ant-Man to me. I mean, like a lot of Ant-Man. It's really about like a dad or like a family trying to,
I also feel like Marvel kind of has the corner on the live action universe, and DC, their animated universe is really great. So I mean, like it's tough to. Well, and more to
your point, like their television universe is great too, right? I appreciate most of those shows.
Well, they have a controlling
I don't
interest
appreciate
in their
Batwoman.
animation and in their television show, but doesn't
Harley Quinn.
WB, just control all the characters?
Well, it's all one of them.
And I think though that's the biggest problem with the DCEU is Marvel was such a big deal because Marvel finally, like in the 90s, they sold their rights to all these different studios. You had Fox with X-Men and Fantastic Four. You had Sony with Spider-Man. And they had to work with what they had left and then backtrack. Like getting Spider-Man, that was a big deal because that is not a Marvel Studios property. They had to actually like extend their universe to another studio to bring it in, and they pretty much fought and clawed to work with what they had and to grab what they could to put this universe together. Whereas like DC's had all of their characters and could have done this since the beginning and just never did. And so by the time they jumped on it, it looked so desperate. Because then I was like, well, Marvel's doing it. Now we got to do it. I'm like, but you could have done this from the beginning. So what was your excuse for not doing this?
And it's terrible. And they laid out, Marvel laid out the blueprint for it, and then DC just kind of threw it by the wayside. And that's the issue, is because that the Marvel universe had people like Joss Whedon at the helm, the Russo brothers, and they guided it in the correct way. And they also brought in directors. They kind of did the opposite of what DC did. They brought in directors who were television, small, low-budget horror movies, and we're going to give you these properties, but you got to play by our rules. Where I think DC said, hey, we let Chris Nolan, who's an auteur, who makes phenomenal films and makes these beautiful films, and he did well, so let's find other auteurs and let them do it. And they didn't do well. Like it didn't have that cohesiveness and forethought.
Well, and I think that more to your point is what Marvel is allowing their directors and producers to do is to create films in whatever genre they want and then dress them down into superhero films. Whereas DC is trying to take these great directors and producers and force them to create a great superhero film. I mean, Christopher Nolan was lightning in a bottle, but it doesn't. I mean, and Patty Jenkins did a good job too. But
it's the same problem that they had with the monster universe too, where they just try to make these big movies with these director, and it just didn't roll out. Like it was planned to be a universe. The Mummy movie was supposed to roll in.
Oh, the Dark Universe, the Dark Universe.
New Dark.
Because there's the old
universe.
Yeah. So the Dark Universe.
Which we could talk about. I think we could go chronologically because Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein is one of the greatest crossovers of all time. And I'd be happy to do an hour-long monologue on how great that film is. But that was like, again, they didn't have the leadership and they didn't pick the right directors, maybe. I don't know. I just
also, though, I think one of the problems DCEU had, and I have friends who will very avidly debate against me, so I kind of feel bad I don't have like a very DC person on here, and I don't consider myself not a DC.
I like DC.
No,
I like DC.
I'm sorry, I meant DCEU person. I also like my favorite two comic book characters are Tim Drake Robin and Spider-Man and Doctor Doom. But Tim Drake Robin is like one of my favorites, which is kind of why. I don't care about the Batman franchise because he's never included in it. But one thing I think the biggest problem was DCEU is that Marvel, again, had different directors except for Edgar Wright. I really wish he had directed Ant-Man. That would have been great. Take that risk.
He was like
whatever.
the first too, right?
That could have been the Taika Waititi of whatever. They'll learn
too, right? Like didn't they snatch a film from him?
But kind of. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, he signed on before Jon Favreau, and they jerked him around for so long. I don't blame him for leaving.
But to what you were saying, though, is like each film kind of has, in Marvel, kind of has their own set of directors, kind of has their own style, kind of tells their own story. And I felt like DC tried to shoehorn it in. So Man of Steel is about Superman. And again, I liked Man of Steel. I don't love the Man of Steel, but like, I like Man of Steel. I thought it had a one direction. It followed through. It was Superman. Maybe not the best Superman, it was Superman. The direct sequel, the second in line of the DCEU, was a Superman sequel that was more Batman, really, than Superman. Yeah. Also introduced Wonder Woman, and introduced a soft Justice League, but also cameoed Cyborg, Aquaman, Flash. And here's our first view of Lex Luthor, the big bad guy, but also here's the Death of Superman storyline with Darkseid. Also, the guy who started our universe one movie ago, he's dead now. Yeah. You believe that, right? He's definitely dead now.
Yeah.
In the second film, imagine if Iron Man 2, or I guess the Hulk, imagine the Incredible Hulk rolled out and Iron Man's killed, Captain America shows up, Thor shows up, everyone just sitting there and they're all fighting freaking Thanos.
Right, yeah.
There would be no MCU. Like,
my issue is like, are Batman and Superman not big enough to like carry an entire film? Like, Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns is the greatest superhero comic book of all time. Why not just copy and paste that and then just pay out your royalties and have Chris Nolan produce it? But yeah, and then as soon as they were like, oh, Wonder Woman is in this, I was like, this movie's over. This is done. Like, if you can't have Batman and Superman carry a film for you for 90 minutes, then you screwed it up. Then
also,
you need to go back to the drawing board.
I would argue that DC lost kind of who they were, because like when you watch Batman v Superman, and again, I don't want to harp too much on DCEU Marvel, but when you look at the DCEU's Batman v Superman, Batman, he's like a brawler. The fight scenes are really good, but he does like zero detective work. It's all Alfred in his ear saying, "All right, now make a left. All right, now you go over here. Put in this file." And but like DC Comics is kind of redundant as it is. Means is Detective Comics. So is Detective Comics? Why is Batman not being the detective? But in the movie, like,
that's a problem throughout.
Greg and I have talked about this in all the movies. He does a ballistics thing in The Dark Knight, and that's about the extent of his detective.
Well, yeah, because he also uses what
trilogy.
Fox does all like the detective.
Yeah.
I'm like,
it drives me nuts. I agree.
Yeah,
but
I'm like,
should we get back to crossovers though? I feel like should we cross back?
Let's go back to the 30s. Let's go to Universal Monster.
Yeah, is that the first major crossover? And how is Abbott and Costello be Frankenstein?
No.
But shared universe?
In film?
Not.
In film.
Godzilla?
Godzilla's the 50s.
Okay. Godzilla and King Kong is much later on, yeah.
Well, King Kong is the 30s.
Right.
Godzilla,
when they meet.
So before Abbott and Costello, Frankenstein meets Wolfman is 1943.
Okay.
I believe that is the first crossover. And they do a really good job of like humanizing, like Wolfman is actually a pretty redeemable character in this one. Yeah, kind of always is. He always is kind of you root for him, even though he's fucked up. And then Frankenstein is kind of like the Hulk, like someone's got to stop him. And then no, it's not. But also I like that they use the term meets. It's like Abbott and Costello meet the Wolfman. Frankenstein meets. It doesn't have like that aggressive, or they'll have like House of. They had like House of Dracula, House of Frankenstein. But it's not like Marvel v Superman or like Civil War. It's like
meet Frankenstein.
Right.
Just like hanging out.
I do think it is cool that a lot of the classic monsters do meet Scooby-Doo as well, because they're also from the 60s. But they're also a shared universe. So it is kind of
the godfather of that, right?
Puts them all into our...
Scooby-Doo meets everybody eventually.
Right.
Yeah. That puts them into our real world, because like we talked earlier about meeting the pro wrestlers, and they have like the celebrities on there all the time. So then it just like wraps it up and makes everybody real. While also being like, hey guys, this is a talking dog. So.
And I've been watching a lot of the Universal Classic. If anyone listening to this or watching this has not seen the Universal Classic Monsters, most of them are on Peacock for free. Some of the big ones like Wolfman, The Mummy, some of the big ones are subscription only, but like Dracula's on there, Bride of Frankenstein's on there. I actually really liked, I don't know if anyone's seen this on here, but Dracula's Daughter was actually really good and definitely had some underlying like homosexuality, which is kind of goes into Marvel with like the X-Men franchise, where like she's trying to cure her vampirism. And
nice.
It's a really, I think, ahead of its time film that like everyone focuses on Bride of Frankenstein, which spoiler alert, she ain't barely in the movie.
Right.
Oh, yeah. She gets like the last 3 minutes.
She wakes up, hisses, and explodes. Yeah, I don't know why she's on the cover. Like, and
she
I
looks
think
cool. They do marketing.
To be fair, though, I think it's kind of a double entendre, because I think when people think Bride of Frankenstein, they think her, like the frizzy Marge Simpson hair. But in this one, unlike the first film, for the first Frankenstein be damned, Dr. Frankenstein does run away with his fiance. Like Frankenstein saves Dr. Frankenstein and his fiance. So you can kind of look at Bride of Frankenstein being really the story about the doctor and his fiance, instead of the monster and his monster.
His Eve?
The monster. Yeah. Evil.
So going off monster, should we go chronologically? How do we want to talk about it?
One thing I wanted to bring up about the MonsterVerse before we leave it is that I think that a lot of these shared universes in film, I can't speak for everything, a lot of shared universes in film I think are tied to real life conflict. So when you have the MonsterVerse, it started in, especially when they start fighting each other, like say Wolfman versus Frankenstein, that was 1943. That was the end of the World War II. Then you had Iron Man start the MCU. That was the Iraq War. That was what 2000. What was it? 2000. Anyone know? Marvel.
I'm not sure.
I don't know when that started. Well, it was, I think, the end of the Bush administration.
Yeah.
I mean, he's fighting in the Middle East. It's all about weapons of mass destruction, and not really we're aiding the weapons of mass destruction. You mean Desert Storm?
Yeah.
And also leading into the Godzilla MonsterVerse, which is the atomic age, the Cold War. I think a lot of these shared universes where monsters, especially when they come together to fight a bigger evil, is kind of a telling, I think, of major wars and major conflict around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. But
that's really interesting.
I mean, that could be said about the franchises themselves in general, right? Like, X-Men is a direct result of the same thing, right? That kind of atomic age situation. Superman is, the American dream via Jewish immigrants, right? The ultimate
well, and X-Men was a lot of
experiment.
X-Men was a lot of racial stuff too. It was just a more palatable way.
Civil rights movement at all.
It was a more palatable way of doing it.
Right. Well, they're not black; they're mutants.
Yeah.
They're not gay. They're not gay.
They just have weird powers.
But also, I mean, again, in the Universal MonsterVerse, like she's not gay. She's a vampire.
Oh, right. Well, I mean, we can talk about the homoerotic nature of vampirism at all.
Yeah. Well, this one definitely. Well, I mean,
they are naturally romantic.
You can also like Wolfman is kind of in the same thing.
Oh, you mean
like Wolfman? I would say with Wolfman and vampires, though, both are like agents of nature. Like a werewolf is a being of nature. That's not a scientific experiment, and he's fighting against the nature that was brought onto him. So.
Okay,
you know what I mean? Like he transforms in a moon, like vampires. Like they can't really help being a vampire once you're a vampire. You can't help being a werewolf during a full moon. So both try to seek a cure.
A lot of times, the familiars for vampires want to be vampires. There are very few people that are out there like, make me a werewolf.
I'm team werewolf all the way.
Werewolf.
You and
I'm team werewolf.
That's about it.
Lichens forever.
Yeah,
the werewolves, not swearwolves.
Werewolves, not
werewolves.
So on that, so now that we're talking about social commentary in films and the way it has to do with what social commentary does Freddy versus Jason have to do, and did we enjoy that movie? Because I feel like I'm out. I feel like I'm on an island because I don't like the Jason movies. I don't like Friday the 13th, but I do enjoy Freddy Krueger. I like Freddy versus Jason. Okay. I enjoy it for what it was. I can take off my thinking cap and eat some popcorn and watch people get slashed to death.
I feel like that movie came out in a time, if I have to like think about what could be like the behind, like the subconscious motives, I think that was in kind of a time of prosperity. That was kind of in a time where we can have dumb fun. The sequels, we're not there to be scared. We're there just because it's stupid and it's fun.
Yes.
Freddy and Jason have both long overstayed their welcome in the horror world. Like they're both wisecracking, kind of Chucky did the same thing. So I think in the Chucky sequels, Bride of Chucky, they all by the time that came out was all just kind of for fun.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute.
Million sequels of them leading up to that point.
I'll say deviate from that a minute. So when it comes to horror movies, true horror movies, the first one is always going to be like this great, riveting piece of filmmaking. Not always, but the good ones are this riveting piece of filmmaking. The second sequel usually becomes either an action film or an adventure film with horror elements. The third sequel becomes something ridiculous that is not. Anyway,
Halloween
it doesn't
3?
matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's Halloween.
First off, how dare you?
No.
3. I love Halloween.
I love it too, but is it not ridiculous? Did it not go straight off to the ridiculous?
What, you're saying snakes coming out of some kid's face because he watched a blinky television is ridiculous? Get out of town.
Yeah,
no, I don't know what you're talking about.
I wish they had stuck with I wish they had stuck with rotating a new story every time. I actually like that one as well.
If you watch Halloween 3 and think of it as its own film or put it at the beginning of it,
It's a Halloween movie.
Fits in better. Yeah, like it's fits
called
in,
Halloween.
But like when they tie in like Stonehenge has to do with this, and like it's to bring people's faith in trick or treat or whatever it is. Yeah, it's out of control. It's ridiculous.
But
it's
that's
the
what
most
I mean.
bizarre
I mean,
premise.
whether it's Halloween, whether it's Friday the 13th, whether it's Terminator, right? The first Terminator film is a horror film, whether you believe that or not.
Tech noir,
Yeah.
tech noir film. They created their own genre.
Yeah, tech horror.
Suspense thriller.
But it's.
I would argue
not
it.
really
I would
Terminator
argue
monster.
it does seep into the horror genre. It was scary. He was
Schwarzenegger is a
scary.
monster.
Like the effects and everything was like believable. That was scary. It was, and they weren't just like running the whole time. It was like it wasn't like I
was
feel like in the
stalking
sequel. I feel like in the sequel they're like let's fight back, and this one is like let's just fucking run.
Yeah, because it's a survival film.
Yeah,
right.
So I lost my point. Oh, yeah. So by the third sequel, it gets ridiculous and off the rails anyway. And so by the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh sequel, it doesn't matter.
Right. Okay. So one thing, just my point. I actually, third film was bad. The ending terrified me with the nuclear bombs. That was actually that made me think.
The ending is phenomenal.
Yeah, and I'm like, but why is it on this movie?
Yeah,
and also,
I agree.
If I was anyone listening who's never heard of the Transformers, Jesus, Terminator before, I would watch 1, watch 2, and skip straight to Sarah Connor Chronicles.
Yeah, yeah.
I actually love that. Is a good show.
Hashtag Lena Headey.
Yeah, Lena Headey. Yeah.
Wasn't the nuclear
Summer
bomb
Glau.
in
Summer
the
Glau.
second one, Terminator 2: Judgment Day?
Yeah, but that was a.
Or am I just
So
thinking
they
of, like,
showed they showed one close up like ground level version of it. This showed a panning of the world as the bombs are being set off by
gotcha.
Skynet,
Okay,
and you
gotcha.
see the globe basically
burning.
turn into Land of Ooh from Adventure
I
Time.
hate to admit this, but Terminator 3 is the only one of the Terminator movies that I have seen thus far, and I've seen bits and pieces of the other one. But
And you were the Terminator. You were to the Terminator at Universal Studios.
I was from the second one. Oh my god!
Yeah.
Those are two of the greatest movies of all time. Those are both on my top 50 favorite movies of all time.
I own the
Terminator and
first one,
Terminator 2.
and I've had it
Are
for
we
3
saying
years,
that-
and I just have not watched it.
Terminator 2 may be the greatest action movie of all time.
Well, I would say T1 and T2 have the same Alien vibes. Where Alien 1 is a hard horror, like it's definitely a horror film.
was an adventure
2
film.
is like it's an action sci-fi film.
I don't think it's a coincidence that Cameron did Terminator and Aliens.
Right,
Yeah.
What were you saying, Armed? See that?
So
Sorry.
yeah. Salvation. Did nobody here like Salvation, Terminator?
I did. I liked it. The McG.
Was that the Christian Bale, or was that?
Yeah, it was
I liked it. People hate that movie. I enjoyed it. I liked Salvation.
I didn't hate it, but
Where-
it didn't do anything for me.
Where
Like if I never
he
saw it
fa-
again, I'd be fine.
That was where Christian Bale did that. Screaming at the guy for walking around his lights and say he was going to tear him down.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that one. I did like
Yeah,
Salvation.
you're gonna fault Christian Bale for his method acting.
Yeah.
I would say though one of the biggest problems I think wasn't the film itself, but like the trailer ruined one of the biggest twists.
Yes.
Right.
Like why would you do that? That made me
did
once I
that
saw it,
for-
I'm like,
They did that for T2 as well. For is that the one you're talking about? Or are you talking about
well,
Salvation?
in
Salvation.
Yeah, in
Salvation.
So in Salvation, I don't want to spoiler alert. I'm gonna say spoiler alert now. So when like in the trailer, they're like, John, we're here to talk to John Connor. Baxter's like, oh, I'm a Terminator. I'm like,
Well, they did
would
the
you
same
do that?
thing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. They did the same thing with T2. Spoiler alert. For that movie that's been out for 30 some odd years.
right. Spoiler alert.
But in the trailer, they showed the cop, and like initially you think like, oh, he's the good guy. He's gonna save him from. And then the Arnold stands up and is like, "Hey, I'm here to save you." It's like, what?
Yeah.
If you
You
want
couldn't
that's a
save that
great
for the
twist.
fucking movie.
Come with me.
Yeah.
If you want to live.
Come with me.
That's a
if you
really
want.
good twist too.
I
and
think
it just
that
burns
that
it.
was kind of to set up who the hero background, but also I feel like it was kind of say like, hey, so we have this new like reflective CGI that we really want you to. That's what brought people in. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, this bad guy can stretch.
Okay.
But I feel like Salvation. That wasn't any effect we hadn't seen from Aliens. Like Alien already had the cyborg
It
body
was a perspective
missing.
that we'd never seen on the Machine War. We didn't. There was never a deep dive into the future war, and Salvation gave us that perspective, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, but so did The Matrix.
The Animatrix.
Animatrix. Now that is
good.
quality.
Chef's
Some quality right there, maybe.
All right. We're
I'll tell you.
Where are we at? Toho? Are we at Toho?
Toho. Yeah. We're back to
So I call it the Toho-verse. I want to call it the Monsterverse, but I feel like Universal kind of had it first. There's the Universal Monsterverse, but then there's the Monsterverse.
The Kaiju-verse. How about that?
I call but the Toho did them all. That's one of the ones I don't think people realize is a shared universe. So like I know,
Godzilla fights everybody.
right, but I think most people understand it as Godzilla fights people in Godzilla films, and I know people know King Kong versus Godzilla,
Right.
but what I don't think people understand. So Godzilla came out in 1954. 2 years later, Rodan came out in his own film. He's not a Godzilla character. Rodan is a Toho big monster film. He was on his own. Mothra was the same in 1961. So Mothra was his own standalone film.
How boring would a Mothra stand?
No, it is not boring. It is not boring.
Really?
I swear to God. So Mothra is there's these two
giant moth attacking the city.
So it's brought together by these magical twins that land on Earth.
It ate so many holes.
Nice.
In the sweaters.
It's so much. It's not just a big moth. It's not just a big moth. It's a.
No, I believe you. I'm being a.
Yeah,
But in this
wouldn't
one-
it just like fly directly into the sun and be like,
Yeah.
oh, there's the light.
Roll out the mothballs, everyone.
It's definitely a way more bizarre film than it has any right to be. But yeah, so at least Rodan, Mothra, King Kong, they absolutely did not share a Godzilla verse until they're after their own respective films.
Right.
Which
I know that.
yeah, a lot of people they know King Kong 'cause he came out in the 30s, but yeah, Rodan and Mothra, they're their own. They're all Toho, but
So here's
Another
my,
share. Oh, go ahead.
We'll make this quick. My quick question is, I understood it that Godzilla only appears when the world needs to be saved. And yes, he causes massive amounts of collateral damage to do it. But so okay, so Mothra and Rodan, I haven't seen these. Are they attacking the world? Is that why Godzilla's like, hold on a second, guys?
yeah. So Rodan for sure. I don't remember if Mothra is or not. I feel like Mothra is more like originally was kind of a bad moth, but then eventually it becomes like these weird, crazy twin spirits. And Mothra is actually
Definitely.
the go-to like sidekick kind of to Godzilla. Like Mothra, she helps
Even in the new
Godzilla
ones.
pretty frequently. Yeah, Rodan is normally kind of like you don't know where he's gonna go. He helps sometimes. He's an asshole sometimes.
He's the
but
pterodactyl one, isn't he?
Yeah. He's like this
Yeah.
giant
Flying
fire.
monster,
He's like a
Right.
lava kaiju. But Godzilla, the first film was kind of a horror film. I think he was more like, this is what nuclear war will lead to.
Yes.
And I think eventually he became into, other things are attacking Earth.
And then
Well, this is my place to attack.
That's
Earth.
right.
No,
And then
no,
Godzuki
no.
comes into the fold.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Did you guys like Shin Godzilla? Did you guys see it?
I saw Shin Godzilla. It was very good. I thought it was
loved it.
really weird. It was really weird. Like the mouth
I
tail.
loved it. The
It was-
scene
yeah.
where he kind of comes down, shoots all the beams out, is one of the better just scenes in recent film history.
Yeah,
really
and
like
I
that.
feel like that was I thought it was one of the most solid. Because a lot of them are kind of hard to watch. They're just so slow, and most of the biggest problem with the Godzilla films, I would say, kaiju films in general, they really focus on the human element that is so boring. They don't
That's
pick
the point, right? That's,
Well,
that's-
this-
but they don't
that's
pick
what
interesting.
Shin-
They don't pick
That's-
interesting humans to follow.
Because Shin did such a good job because I think a lot of it had to do with their waiting to attack Godzilla or how to do had a lot to do with their response to the tsunami.
Right.
And the
Yeah.
one it went with the new. So that's why I felt like that went hand in
Shin was
hand.
good.
And I thought
thought-
they knocked it out of the park. I
thought
really,
the
really enjoyed Shin.
Legendary Godzilla, I thought was pretty good. They did do the bait and switch though, where they're like, "Oh, you love Bryan Cranston? Did you just watch?
Yeah.
Did you just watch
I
Breaking
did.
Bad? He'll be in here for 2 minutes."
well, they did
It
that.
had a
Yeah, that
few
was-
silly moments that kind of took me out of it, but I did overall. It was a positive.
I thought that one was good because they always. And I'm not the one. I saw this on. So I may have been Corridor Crew mentioned it with in regards to Pacific Rim, where they did this in the first Pacific Rim, but not in the second Pacific Rim. So they did this with Godzilla as well. Everything is told from a human's eye view, which really makes you kind of Cloverfield style really fear Godzilla. Like he's not attacking you, but you are so helpless and you feel so incredibly small that even though he is trying to fight something that is attacking you, he doesn't notice you there.
Right.
You're nothing to him.
Well,
Yeah.
isn't that why Batman went after Superman in SVB?
Kind of, except Superman
he was
did
like-
notice.
Well, To transition, and I agree, and that's why I think it works best when it does give that social commentary. But yeah, some of those films are so old and so drawn out. But a monster shared universe. What'd you think about the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen?
I like the comics.
Effort compared.
Oh,
to
I love the
what we
comic
got
books.
subsequently. Because
Your face is on the.
I don't. I look better here than.
it's like a Alex G was like a weak Penny Dreadful.
Yeah.
Where
And well, okay. Let me piggyback on that too. LXG was trying to capitalize on something that it didn't quite understand how to produce.
Well, and also I think they had what a lot of films have, where it's like, oh, there's not an American character. Tom Sawyer. I'm like, you don't put Pecos Bill in there. It's like, you put Tom Sawyer. Like, it's a super.
This is right up your alley for the.
This is why.
Podcast. You could do a whole segment on LXG.
Dude,
This is why
serious.
Batman Superman stunk. Stick to the source material. Alan Moore is one of the greatest comic book writers, if not the greatest comic book writer of all time. Just do his story.
But
Just
I
do
don't
his
know- I
story.
don't know-
He
a
also
person
hated
alive-
when they did Watchmen. He was like, please do not.
There's more to it because they stole the rights for a lot of his comic books. And when he wrote Watchmen, part of the reason why it's not the Blue Beetle and it's Owlman and why it's not Captain Atom and it's Dr. Manhattan is because he was told that these were going to be his characters.
Right,
And that if he chose these characters, he would have the rights. And they kind of said, well, just kidding. You had the rights for however long. You didn't do anything with the properties. Now they're ours, and now we're going to make a ton of money off of them. And so he said, screw you, DC. I'm never doing a popular comic character ever again. And so that's where that comes from. So he doesn't even watch the movies. He's just like, screw these guys, do whatever. And so, and good on him. He gives all the writers or the artists the rights for the movies or whatever royalties he be getting from DC. But yeah, that's where that came from.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
kind of. I mean, so I feel like I would feel like I would put League of Extraordinary in that guilty pleasure zone of like Van Helsing.
If it's on,
Like the Van Helsing zone, where like, like if it's on, I know, but it's fun. Like it's fun.
driving a six-wheeled car through Venice, just destroying it.
Yeah, like it's not good, but like I like it. I just didn't understand, and I love Tom Sawyer is my favorite book. Like Tom Sawyer is, other than Jurassic Park, Tom Sawyer is my favorite literary character. But I still am like, I can watch a film without an American accent in it. I don't. I don't need that.
I have a question, comment. I don't know where this is coming from, but we talking about literary crossover books and characters, LXG and more to the point, Penny Dreadful. Like
Good chat.
Jules Verne type things coming together, right? Don't we have that somewhere already too?
Talking about like Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
Something like
Maybe that's
I was
not
thinking
Jules
more
Verne,
20,000
obviously.
Leagues Under the Sea and
Right.
Oh, you mean Jules Verne from Back to the Future 3?
Yeah.
Jules Brown and Verne Brown.
Yes.
That was a cross. well, I'm not sure if like 20,000 Leagues and he did what? Did he do Time Machine? That's H.G. Wells.
Yeah, H.G. Wells.
He did Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Yes.
He did Journey to the Center of the Earth. I don't know if they crossed over. I do know, like, in a similar vein though to Penny Dreadful and especially League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, one comic that got screwed, and this I think upset my wife more than me. The Fables. So Fables is an awesome comic where it crosses over like Boy Blue. You have Snow White. You have Big B, like Big Bad Wolf, and their endurance is based on how relevant they are in pop culture. So obviously with Disney being in their universe, Snow White, she can die and come right back, but Boy Blue, no. And from my understanding is that I think it was Vertigo / DC pitched freaking, and this is before the buyout of Marvel. They pitched Fables to Disney. Disney turned them down,
Of course
and then immediately made Once Upon a Time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you knew it was going to happen.
Okay, let's talk about
Yeah.
that for a minute. Grimm's Fairy Tales et al. Right? There's lots of, shows like Supernatural where they pull traditional monster tropes. All the spin-offs of the Grimm's characters where, these fairy tales are only in a shared universe because the brothers Grimm put them together, right? But does that count?
I think so,
I
right?
see why not.
Wait, so you're saying since like so Grimm though doesn't grab onto another existing property though. They're just like literary
All the
characters
Grimm
as well.
brothers.
Right. But
When were
but
what
you
were
think about-
Hansel and Gretel in? Isn't that Grimm brothers?
Yeah, it is.
Well, a
Hansel
lot
and
of the
Gretel,
Grimm, but a lot of the
Beauty,
Grimm stories are kind of in several other things. So the Grimm wrote a version of like Little White Cap, but it's Little Red Riding Hood that existed. Like so, they I think put a lot of spins on existing oral tales.
Right. But like that movie Grimm, right?
Brothers Grimm, there's a
Whatever
Matt
it was.
Damon.
Grimm's, yeah. There's a book series my kids are reading now, The Sisters Grimm, where it's modern, but it's all the characters you know and love. It's Snow White, Cinderella, it's all these
Ooh.
characters. Wreck-It Ralph.
Well, yeah,
That is an extended universe.
Wreck-It Ralph goes in there with Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and then we talked about the Lego
Yeah.
movie earlier.
That's like meta crossover.
Yeah.
You know.
But
Where I would say the Mortal Kombat franchise is the same way. Soul Calibur
I was gonna
franchise
say
is the
that
same way.
about Terminator, because Terminator was just in that, and so was John Rambo
Oh,
and Jason,
yeah.
and you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rambo and
We don't-
Jason,
we don't-
Freddy.
Where we talk about feature films. If it's not a feature
Right.
film, then you don't count. All right.
okay, so we're
Okay,
now putting
well, but
parameters.
Rambo and Terminator are feature films, so now the Mortal Kombat.
But it was in a video
Well,
game.
Mortal Kombat was
It was in
also
a
a
crossover
feature
didn't
film,
happen in
so.
the feature film. Okay.
Oh, God, okay, got
Feature film or feature
No, I'm just goofing. Well, because there's great I was right because I'm comic books. I love the comic books. And Terminator and Aliens is a great crossover. And I think Frank Miller either produced or edited one of those comic books and did a great job. But there's a bunch of those good ones there.
But there's also though like, and we may have touched on this at the beginning, where there are like meta references where like if you watch Us, at the beginning of Us, you see that he owns the film Chud.
Right.
Which tells you that there are people living under the ground who are, you know, and so in his existence, it's meta. The movie Chud came out. Like same with Lego Movie, like it's kids playing with the same Lego sets that are out right now.
Is
so
that like
I feel
Dan
in Wreck-It
Aykroyd
Ralph
being
is the
in
same way.
Casper?
I feel like that is actually a crossover because he's
Okay, all right.
well, because he's not Dan Aykroyd. He actually has like his
Venkman.
he has his
not
name tag
Venkman,
on.
What's his name? Yeah.
I think that might actually be a crossover because
Okay,
he even says
all
who you're
right.
gonna call. He's wearing his legit outfit with his name on it. I think that is a crossover.
But
Never mind.
does a crossover necessarily create a shared universe? Right? Or is it just like an Easter egg?
Well,
Well, the thing is, like-
I'll call into attention for this New Girl and Brooklyn Nine-Nine because there is an episode where Jess from New Girl is driving a car and Andy Samberg, I'm blanking on his name right now, his character in Brooklyn Nine-Nine,
Jake
commandeers her car. Yes, Peralta commandeers her car because he's chasing some sort of perp, and then they get stuck in traffic and they have to have this dialogue. And it's never, I don't even think brought up that her name is Jess, but like she's clearly Jess from New Girl.
Oh yeah, but to the same degree, like Doug Heffernan from King of Queens appears in Everybody Loves Raymond, even though he already is a character in that show. Now he's two characters in that show, and he also, even before his show was a show, appeared in the Cosby Show as Doug Heffernan.
Okay.
Well, I feel like though the difference though with Casper is like when you say watch the reboot, when you watch like the reboot of, well, I don't know, sequel reboot, whatever you'd call the latest Ghostbusters movie with the girls in it, Ray is Dan Aykroyd, Wilson, where Wilson cameo, but not as his character, he plays. Leslie Johnson's dad. So that means not a crossover. But since Dan Aykroyd played Ray in Casper in his suit and says, "Who you gonna call? Not us." He's referring to the other people and the Ghostbusters. I think that is a legitimate crossover. There's not like a follow up to it.
It is
but
a
I do
crossover, but
think
does it create a whole universe around that moment?
So-
does that mean that Christina?
I would say that's a shared universe.
Okay.
So I will say, I'll bounce back at that. But E.T. earlier said E.T.'s not, where Star Wars characters are in the E.T. movie, and E.T. is definitely in a Star Wars
I would say
movie.
E.T.
No, it's brief. It is brief. It's definitely there. But I love the distinction. I think it's.
But I think E.T.'s
That's the
is
fun
meta.
part of this.
But I think E.T.'s
Okay.
is meta because this takes place in a galaxy far, far away, and hardly anyone knows who Yoda is.
Yeah.
So why would we know who Yoda is light years away.
Yeah,
several
in a
million years.
Yes, but yes.
So I would feel.
He's also a time traveler, and
Well, I would feel like
At light speed, then you're a time traveler by definition. So.
But I would feel like
that's yet
no,
to be
but that's
proven.
ET. That's
There
not
are
that's not
papers
that's not us.
that-
Where I feel like the Yoda costume was human beings who made a mold of a Yoda costume because of the Star Wars movies. I would say in the case of ET, no. You can argue in the case of the prequels, yes.
Okay.
How about the
Does it
Because
matter?
Elliot's playing with like
It's
the
a shared
Hasbro
universe.
toys.
Does it matter where the universe
Well,
comes together?
I would say
if
yeah.
it goes
'Cause in the case of ET, it's shared in the same way the Lego movie is their toys based on a movie you've seen.
Oh,
in
yeah, no, I don't disagree with
he's
you
playing
there. But I'm saying, since the prequels established that ET exists in this universe, doesn't that mean, I mean, it's not like, okay, well, the universe only started existing at this point, right? Doesn't it?
Well,
By that
I mean,
point, retroactively,
maybe. And I would say you may have to dig on this. If Spielberg is in on it, yeah. But there is a scene
Hold
in
on.
say in
Let me get him
Frozen.
on the horn.
There's a scene in Frozen where
Yeah, Stevie.
hey. Well, there's a scene in Frozen where Flynn and Rapunzel show up.
the
Kind of as a cameo.
wedding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but when they asked the creators of that movie, like, hey, so you guys put your characters in there, like, no, they just kind of did that as an Easter egg.
Seven.
We didn't even know they did that. I'm wondering though, if that's the case where like if you blink you miss it ET characters, if that's the case, I'd still call that an Easter egg because like if Spielberg's all in, it's like, yes, that's their race, this is what they're doing. I would feel different about it, and I just don't know the answer to that.
So I guess the answer, you have to have some sort of dialogue. Just like where if you're on a film set, you get a pay increase. If you're a background actor, you get X amount of money. If you say one line, you get X amount of money. If you say three lines, you get paid as a principal. And so if you get your 3 lines in, then you count. Then it's a shared
but I've
universe
got the
that
exception to
forges
that now.
the steel.
There's an
Okay.
exception to that. Vincent Vega.
Oh, with the Vega brothers,
The Vega brothers in Tarantino.
Vic and Vincent.
Reservoir Dogs across.
Well, yeah, I think we've confirmed that all that, but there are more. It's more than just the Vega brothers that are connected. There's Red Apple cigarettes. There's so many other things in that universe.
Well, yeah, I mean,
that
there's an
connect
universe
with the
with-
Tarantino
dialogue.
universe.
in Death Proof.
No, but so that would be the other caveat is that you have different things. So you
Django's in Magnificent Seven.
You need 3 lines of dialogue or 3 different things that
Well, then
have
we're
to
back to Pizza
coincide that
Planet,
connect
though.
the universes.
We're back to Pizza Planet because there's always a reference to the next Pixar film and the previous Pixar film.
Yeah.
And that Toyota truck, that delivery truck, is in almost.
the Pizza
So,
Planet truck. Yeah.
so those are 2. So is 3 the magic number? Is that what we need to walk away with? If you have three sentences or 3,
Well, but I think,
how about,
I think there is like a level though of ownership where like
3 is
say
the magic number.
But when you watch like Toy, and I know this isn't a crossover because it's both Toy Story. But when you watch Toy Story, I think it's 3, and you see the garbage man wearing the skull shirt. They asked the creators, "Is that Sid?" And they said, "Yes, that is Sid." So I feel like if you're watching Pizza Planet, I mean, it's like Texaco is in a bunch of backgrounds of our movies too. Like that might just be their way of like, well, we're not really filming, so that's just the gas station. We already have the template for this gas station.
Yeah.
what about something
number
like
3?
Big Mart or whatever it is.
She
in
said,
the
"I got
bunch of
number
them.
3 for Rex over here. Number 3 is A113. Studio
Oh yeah, because
A113.
it's always on like the license
Also
plates
in
and the
every
building
Pixar
numbers.
film.
So maybe
But
Pixar is connected.
but that's also in non-Pixar films though. That's also in Disney animated studio films.
Right, and the
Oh,
Genie
because
Big Hero 6
it's
and stuff
the
like that
office,
too.
right, or like the building
It
number.
was their
It's
classroom.
a school. I think it's
That's right.
is it
Yeah.
USC
It's
It's
CalArts.
a classroom.
or UCLA? Oh, CalArts.
It's the
So,
classroom at
so
CalArts.
what about something like Gravity Falls connecting to?
Rick and Morty.
Yes, because like
and
I
Morty's
mean
time
I
travel
would
and
almost say
universe
that that's
hopping.
cheating because they're both like, oh yeah, there's like a million universes.
what
out
is this?
here, but
I'd
the
love
one
to hear it.
episode-
Okay.
I didn't know this.
It is confirmed though. I think it's confirmed that they worked
Harrison,
on
you
that.
can explain this better than me because I haven't watched either show in quite some time.
Well, I would say I don't know. So anyone who listens to this who knows the TaleGate podcast, you know that Gravity Falls is absolutely in our wheelhouse. I own the DVD. I love Gravity Falls. One of our favorite
here.
All
Disney
right,
shows.
Uncle Stan.
But so there's a scene, and I think it's season 2.
Yeah.
Where Grunkle Stan has a flashback to his brother. He has a twin brother.
Yeah.
Where he gets sucked into the Stargate. I mean, not officially a Stargate, but It's Stargate. And when he gets sucked in, his brother gets sucked in, and then Grunkle Stan, he almost gets sucked in. But what gets sucked in next to him is, the Mystery Shack has that question mark. There's a notepad with a question mark and a pencil or a pen, and they both get sucked in together. And I think it's the very first episode of Rick and Morty where he does the kind of Scooby-Doo gag or the hallway of doors where he opens up like 6 portals. But when he opens up one, you see the same exact notepad and the same exact pencil or pen fall through one of the portals with a question mark on it and everything. And when he was asked about it, Alex Hirsch was on Gravity Falls. He plays the time traveler. Actually, he plays, what's his name?
Blendon Blandon. Yeah, he plays Blendon Blandon. So and they definitely had a lot of I guess creative crossovers. And so that was definitely like a confirmed it was a deliberate nod to each other.
Right.
And Community as well. Dan Harmon had Community in the Hive Mind episode of Rick and Morty.
Right.
So Rick and Morty also do a Simpsons gag too, right? They're in the couch gag, and then the Simpsons
and Adventure Time
are in with Adventure Time, and then the Simpsons have done a crossover with Family Guy, so they're all
that's right.
They're all in together.
How
Is that what we're saying?
Those? Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
That spills into our multiverse.
Yeah, and I think Rick and Morty is the core of that. Adventure Time has never cameoed the Simpsons, or
Mm-hmm.
Well, and even in Rick and Morty, one of the Rick and Mortys is a Mabel and Dipper Morty.
Right. Yeah.
So with the hat and everything. So I feel like those two are very deliberate and had permission from the creators. I feel like a lot of it is not just what makes it the difference between an Easter egg or a nod or an homage is we talked about it. We knew we were doing this. That is a crossover. I feel like in terms of Casper, I would assume if you're going to have the actual outfit that says Ray on it, who you're going to call. I mean, I feel like that would have to have jumped through a couple hoops to get to that point. I could be wrong.
I think Dan Aykroyd
was
does
the Wild
whatever the hell
West
he
in
wants.
filmmaking terms, right?
I agree with that.
That's true. I think it can be said about all those Ghostbusters, right? Because Bill Murray also definitely does whatever the hell he wants.
Yeah.
Right, but this guy used the outfit. He had the actual movie costume and used the real name of his character.
Yeah, you just pay for it.
Right, but if you pay for it, then I think that makes it a crossover. Whereas, if you just paint your own or have a hockey mask,
I can up front, or if you pay for it eventually.
Right. Ask forgiveness later. I was going to say though, going back to Django, and maybe I misspoke. I thought Django officially did cameo in the Magnificent Seven,
the new one.
In the remake, and also in the comic books, he crosses over with Zorro, and that's going to be the sequel to the actual Django live action franchise.
Zorro?
Yeah, Django and Zorro have their own spin-off in the comic books that they're trying to bring.
It's really good too.
But they're bringing it into, at least they're trying to bring it into the live action universe as well, where Django Unchained
cameo.
And Tarantino wrote the comic book, right? Or at least oversaw it, right? Yeah, it's really good.
To backtrack a little bit here, E.T. exists in Star Wars, comes into the future, heals Elliot. E.T. is a Force user.
Oh, well.
He can also fly, though.
Yeah. In a spaceship.
No, he can fly on a bicycle.
On the
he can just bike.
That's right.
Yeah, he can straight up. He can straight up fly, and he can also though sync souls with you, like voodoo doll style.
Oh because Elliot
that works out.
But he likes Reese's Pieces because Eminem didn't have enough faith in the film.
Exactly.
But you know who likes Coca-Cola? Mac and me.
I was gonna say Mac and me, baby.
Paul Rudd looking.
All right,
okay.
This is our 2 minutes. So, closing thoughts, guys. What do you think? Shared universe closing thoughts.
Well,
E.T. is a Jedi.
E.T. is a Jedi.
Okay, I've never heard of a Jedi though that can't survive off his own damn planet. That's weak.
They had
Never said he was a good
to go
one.
into the water in Naboo.
Well, if we're going to mention that, R2D2 C3PO, they're cameoed on the Ark of the Covenant.
Mm-hmm. True, they are true,
That's
and it's
true.
a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Spielberg verse, Armed and Hilarious. Closing thoughts.
Loose, very loose.
Yeah.
Meta and loose.
Yeah, shared universe. We talked about it in our walk last week, but I forgot. There was something. There was a difference between. We were talking about shared universes between Agents of Shield. And
Oh, right. Yeah.
How Agents of Shield deviated from interlooping with storylines
Right. So
from the
an example
movies.
of a shared origin without being a shared universe.
The Netflix verse did the same thing. There's no
Right.
snap.
Well, that's what I mean. Netflix verse
Yeah.
and Agents of Shield is a shared universe with the MCU, but a deviated or shared origin, but deviated universe. So
Technically,
they
there was a snap in the Netflix verse. They were.
don't. Oh yeah.
But not when Punisher season 2 came out and nobody even talked about it. It's not like, oh, I can't believe you just died and came back. It's just like, we'll
The
give
biggest event in human history, and no one even mentions it.
But like Jessica Jones, I think even Daredevil, well, Jessica Jones and Punisher, I think came out after it.
They did. Yeah.
And I'm like, and I think Daredevil season 3. And
It would be the only thing people would talk about. It's on the
what I'm saying.
news 24 hours a day.
It's a shared
It ruined the
origin without
entire
being-
economy.
Shared origin spinoff without being a shared universe. Cheesehead, final thoughts.
I think that there's a lot of semantics to argue with this here, and I believe in the multiverse, and I think that we got a lot more research to do. But I thoroughly enjoyed this.
All right,
This,
rock and roll. Well, sorry to cut you off. Once again, we got the wrap it up music playing in my earphones. Once again, for the digital toilet paper team, my name's Jason Bear.
Rex Rebo.
At Armed and Hilarious.
And we were very, very happy to host today on our podcast the Tailgate Podcasters, Aaron the Cheesehead and Harrison the Florida Man. And we look forward to doing this again with you guys sometime. Check them out on Instagram and wherever you find your podcasts. Like, follow, subscribe, all those fun things. Thank you guys so much. And until next time, adios.
see you later, tailgaters.
Hey everybody, we're Loud Dispatch. We are a Pittsburgh-based podcast.
I'm your host, Mark, with my co-host, Cheech.
Hi,
We talk about all kinds of things on this podcast, and we do it while we drink.
and we do it while we're medicated.
Well, yeah. And anyway, so we talk about art and movies and music and...
All kinds of fun
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
Check us out, iTunes, Napster, Facebook, Instagram.
Sir, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Spotify, iHeartRadio, Podcast Addict. You can catch us all over the place.
Loud Dispatch. Just check us out.
Coming in.
Google it.